Welcome to Study Loop.
For this question, we're looking at the process of natural selection and looking at how the gene frequencies inside of the population start to change based on the introduction of some sort of stress. So the beginning part of this is there's going to have to be some sort of change in the environment or some sort of stress factor. This could be anything from a certain limitation of nutrients. It could be an environmental change where there's something more dangerous in the environment, such as, say, an active volcano or the amount of wind or rain increases. Or you could have the introduction of a new predator. There are many examples of this, but some sort of stress has to be introduced. From there, based on this stress, you're going to cause the death of normal organisms that have not been able to adjust to these sort of stimuli or stress. So you're going to have the death of the normal or the unmutated population. This is because you're going to have the increased survival of those with that advantageous mutation later. We measure it in this way because you figure the death of the normal is going to occur typically in earlier stages. If the nutrients inside the environment is not sufficient enough for the normal population, you're going to get these organisms dying out in an early age before they're able to reproduce. Whereas for the survival of those with that advantageous mutation, they're going to survive first and live to that age where they're going to reproduce and allow for the heritability of this advantageous trait onto its offspring. So here in number 4, you're going to see a change in the genotype frequencies of the population first. This is because you're going to spread that different trait or that mutation across the population. And for 5, you're finally going to see that change in the phenotype as this becomes more common and you have those with that genotype starting to breed and reproduce with one another. And you're going to get more homozygous dominant for that phenotypic trait. So you're going to get a greater expression of the phenotype afterwards, since your genotype can also come in that heterozygous and could possibly not be displayed. So one way to sort of depict this, if it can be confusing how this works, is you're going to have those two populations. And inside, you're going to have the total organism or the species type. So you're going to have a few organisms that are going to have those mutations that arise just randomly out of chance. And then you're going to have the normal population with a much larger number that share those same genetic and phenotypic features. As that stress comes in, you're going to start eliminating those that do not have any sort of advantage in the environment. And it's possible you're going to eliminate some of those with mutations as well that are not well adapted to the stress. So you're going to eliminate a large portion of the normal populations. However, after that stress has kind of been cleared, you're going to get the reproduction of the individuals that had that advantageous trait because they survived better. But you're also going to get the reproduction of some of the individuals in the normal phenotype and genotype pool. So over time, you're going to get an increase in the number of those with this mutation, and you're going to get an interbreeding event between those that do not display the mutation and those that do. And you're going to eventually create either hybrids that have some display of the trait, or you're going to get even more of those with that mutation. And again, that stress is still going to be present in the environment, so you're going to, again, eliminate more of this normal population. And eventually, as you can see, you start getting an increase of the organism with that mutation. So the species eventually shifts from this normal phenotype or genotype to this one with the mutation. And eventually it becomes to the point where you're going to have so little of this normal population that your normal population is actually going to be the one with that mutation. So these will be measured with the number of genotype being expressed. And as they become more dominant and the traits actually become more displayed, you're going to see the phenotype more common in the organism. So here that kind of highlights the order of natural selection and gene frequency, where you first have that stress. This is going to put extreme stress on the normal individuals who cannot adapt and they will die out, whereas the ones with that some sort of mutation to help them survive or trait are going to live on, and from there they'll reproduce. That reproduction will cause the replication of the genotype onto its offspring, and as they become homozygous, or they become more displayed in the population, you're going to see the phenotype finally arise. So based on this order, the best answer choice is going to be A.